You got a lot going on. I have to stop with this because this drives me out of my mind. Democrats, if you feel like you're a normal Democrat and you're not, for Mao and Marxism and, loads and loads of bodies of death because of communists, you better wake up. You've better wake up because you have, in your own party, you have Maoist communists. And the Democratic Socialist of America, remember, it was socialists of America because nobody wanted to say they were communists. And even with the socialists, they were like, well, no, not really. This is 20 years ago. Now they are all in. They are now doing a campaign, Free Elias Rodriguez and all political prisoners. So the guy that, last week, went and shot 2 Jews on the street who were just leaving a symposium on how they could help the people of Gaza. They come out, and this guy shoots what is going to be a husband and a wife a week later, shoots this couple cold blood in the street. And then says, free Palestine, okay? And he's fine with it. He has no problem. Yeah, I did it. In fact, as she was crawling away, trying to get away, he takes the time because he's out of bullets. He reloads his gun so he can finish the job, okay? This guy's a monster, just a monster. So what is happening now? The Democratic Socialist of America, think he's pretty neat. So in addition to his activism on Israel, he is also in favor of, and I'm quoting, the genocide of white people. Let me quote him here. LOL, you'd probably have to actually genocide white people to make this a normal country. Like even a very targeted and selective rehabilitation program would probably lead to the lifetime imprisonment of tens of millions of white people. The Liberation Caucus wrote excellent statement, and we are proud to add our name to the Free Elias Rodriguez and All Political Prisoners campaign. The Democratic Socialists, this holds especially true for those of us struggling behind enemy lines inside the U.S., an entity that is equal party in all crimes committed by the Zionists. There must be consequences for genocidal Zionist imperialism, and those consequences are righteous. Do you see what's happening, Democrats? Now, you can say all you want, well, I'm not a Democratic Socialist. I'm not a Maoist. You have Maoist in your ranks, and I don't know if you know this, but they don't always play by the rules. In fact, what they do is they gain control, and let me ask you, how many people have a differing opinion on anything now in the Democratic Party? What happened to those people? They were run out of the party. Okay, and that's when you were still denying that they were Democratic Socialists in your party, that, and radical revolutionaries that were running the party. You were still in denial of that. Now they were chased out. Now you have people coming right out and saying, you'd probably have to round up, tens of millions of white people and rehabilitate or just genocide them to make this a decent country. And that guy has the Democratic Socialist standing with him and saying he's a political prisoner for shooting 2 people in the streets. And these are the same people in your own party that are now fine with the shooting of a CEO in the streets. Do you see what's happening? Do you see how you're going to lose control of this? I think you already have. But for anybody who thinks, Mao is neat, you might want to crack a book. To his followers, this guy is a revolutionary god, a beacon of hope for a classless utopia. Yeah, really? Really? How about that river of blood that he set loose in China? The millions of lives drown in that blood in the name of his ideology. This is not just history. The Mao history, the communist history, this isn't just history that you look at and you watch it as a documentary. Although, strangely, nobody seems to have a problem with the communists. It's all about the Nazis. The Nazis were bad, and why do we watch those things? Because they were so evil. But Mao made Hitler look like a rookie. Quite frankly, so did Stalin. we watch those documentaries because we're fascinated, strangely, I think, by evil and how they did all of the things. But we also watch them so we can see and go, oh, I see what that is. Hey, wait a minute, aren't those seeds being planted again? Yes, they are. And if you care to learn history, you will see that they are being planted again. It's an alarm bell. You know, when you have a single man's dream that the followers are just diehard believers and say the ends justify the means. See, this is a difference between Donald Trump. He's got a very bold vision, but the ends don't justify the means. I'm sorry, you can't just round people up. You can't just silence them, because that's what Mao did. That's what Mao did. You don't silence people. You don't round them up. This is what the democratic socialists and the people of their ilk are all saying now. And this is what happens. This is what leads to the butchering of millions. In 1958, Mao had his great leap forward. A plan, he said, was going to rocket us to modernity. We're going to outshine the West. We're going to have prosperity. And I care about the little people. I care about the peasants. And we're going to make steel flow like rivers and grain pile high as mountains. And it's going to be neat. It's inspiring, except Mao didn't know how to make steel. And Mao didn't know how to grow any rice. He wasn't a farmer either. He wasn't an engineer. He was a madman. And so what he did is he took the communist ideals and he put people into communes. And private land was seized. And every peasant was turned into a cog in his grand machine. But he did it in the name of the peasants. Okay? Backyard furnaces sprouted like weeds, churning out useless, brittle iron. And people starved because all the fields laid fallow. Okay, grain, it was harvested, but not for the people. Any grain that they did do, remember, he was for the little people. What he did is he exported all of the grain and the rice and everything else elsewhere so he could look like a global titan, so he could improve his image. Meanwhile, because he was so terrifying, the local officials started saying, oh, no, we've grown all kinds of... They were faking all of the crop numbers because they didn't want to get held responsible for anything and end up in a camp or death. So what happens? Starvation. Parents were boiling grass to feed their children. This is 15 to 45 million people. That's not a statistic. That is a mountain of corpses, a river of blood, and it all came from Mao. 1966, he does now the Cultural Revolution. That one didn't work, but don't worry, this one will. Now he's older, he's paranoid, he's drunk on power. He decides China's not pure enough. Oh, wait a minute, hang on just a second. Like, maybe America's not pure enough? Maybe we have to round up and re-educate people? I'm sorry, what did Rodriguez say? Oh, yeah, it was. Round up people and re-educate them or do a genocide on them. He wanted to get rid of capitalists because they were the ones that were holding China back, not him. So he unleashes the Red Guards. This is not a military. This is just fanatics. They're kids, barely out of school, who have read his little red book like it was the Bible. They were just believers. They're not soldiers, but they were all ready to die for him. And he uses them and he points them like a dagger into the hearts of teachers and artists and party officials. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. It's a way to get revenge on anybody. So they're beaten in the streets. They're paraded in dunce caps. They're sent to labor camps. People are allowed to stone them in the streets, and children have to deny their own parents or they face the same. They burn books. How come nobody talks about the book burning of Mao? No. We just really like Mao. We just really think he's good. How? In what way? How? Well, that revolutionary spirit, he had a dream of a utopia, and it didn't work out that time. Yeah, it never works out. Never, ever, 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 ever works out. Never works out. I mean, he's inspired how many revolutions? China, Cambodia, there are the killing fields. That one was really good. Nepal, Peru, brutal death, 70,000 dead. India, brutal death. Philippines, brutal death, 40,000 deaths there. Vietnam, well, that was a mixed one. It wasn't fully Maoist, and Ho Chi Minh, he drew on Mao's tactics, but it wasn't. I mean, victory brought unification. Yeah. Of course, there was that famine and the repression that killed thousands of people, but that one was kind of mixed. Zimbabwe, that was mixed. I mean, it ended white rule, but then Mugabe, he starved his people, killed his people, stole from his people, economic collapse, but that was kind of mixed. Laos, brutal death. Bhutan, brutal death. So out of all the Maoist revolutions, let's say 10, how many of them led to utopia? 0. How many led to brutal death and starvation? If I'm being really generous, 7 out of 10. Because I have to count Zimbabwe, Vietnam, and Nepal as a mixed result. 7 out of 10 times. Rivers of blood, starvation, purges, endless conflict. Okay. Why? Why does it always end that way? Because somebody says the ends justify the means. Somebody says, well, these people are not as important as the other. These people are the ones standing in the way, and the ends justify the means. It's just collateral damage. So my question is for Democrats, when are you going to learn from history? When will you learn from history? When will you start saying, you know what, if you believe in Mao, I can't stand with you? What was it the Beatles say? Walking around with signs of Chairman Mao? Well, no one will listen to you anyhow. I mean, this is the same story over and over and over again. What's the end game? Where's the proof that any of that works? Because I can show you it doesn't work. Where's your proof that it does work? What's the difference this time? It just wasn't done fast enough. You didn't kill enough people. You didn't starve enough people. What is it? Because I want to show you how this is beginning here in America. We'll do that in 60 seconds. First, let me tell you about American financing.
NMLS 182334, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. APR for rates in the 5 starts at 6.799% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 800-906-2440 for details about credit costs and terms.
Everybody talks about freedom, but if you're drowning in debt, if your mortgage is bleeding you dry every single month, then freedom starts to feel like a fairy tale. The truth is, most people never got a real financial education. They took out loans because that's what everybody said to do, and now the interest rates are crushing them, and people feel like there's no way out. Well, there is a way out, and it starts with a simple 10-minute phone call to American Financing. This is a family-owned mortgage company. They are not working for the banks. They work for you, so they listen, and they help you take control of your money. And they've been doing it for over 20 years. And they don't sell you a loan that doesn't make any sense. They look at the whole picture. They work to help find a way out of debt faster, often without resetting any of your loan terms or anything else. You'll be able to skip a couple of payments if you have a house, lower your rate, even free up hundreds of dollars a month. The average is saving, I think, $836. That's just from this audience. That's how much the average person is saving just by calling American Financing. AmericanFinancing.net. AmericanFinancing.net. 800-906-2440. 800-906-2440. AmericanFinancing.net. 10 seconds, station ID. Let me show you. Let me show you a couple of things. First of all, let's go with the Nashville the Democrat mayor. He's now doxing ICE agents. Okay, why? He says the release of the names of ICE agents was just a mistake. DHS says there's zero chance it was a mistake. Okay, this is Freddie O'Connell, and he's now doxed ICE, and he is in trouble because he's also, they claim, using funds to help the illegals avoid ICE. All right. Well, that's breaking the law, isn't it? Yes, but the ends justify the means. See, it starts in little ways. How about this guy? Did you hear the story about, what's his name? Calvin Polachek, I think. He's a huge anti-gun activist, and he has talked about how he survived a 2017 active shooter situation at Dallas High School, killed his brother, best friend, 9 others. The only problem is, it didn't happen. Excuse me? Did you see this story, Stu?
Yeah. I was fascinated to see because I saw the headline. Is it one of those things where there was a shooting scare and luckily maybe people survived, or his brother was shot in a different shooting and he exaggerated it? I mean, it seems to be, and this is a Dallas township in Pennsylvania, not Dallas, the city in Texas, but Dallas township released a statement. They're like, not only did this not happen, there wasn't any shooting at all, and there has never been a shooting in this school district at any point ever. It wasn't like it was another year. He was referring to something else. It's got no mass shootings have occurred that look anything like this in the township.
So what would possess somebody to do this? Either insanity, stupidity, or just the ends justify the means. I can lie. I can do whatever I want because the ends justify the means. We now have 200 Democrats that now say, yeah, I knew that Joe Biden was incompetent. And I didn't say anything. We have 200 Democrats that now claim, while people were being called all kinds of names, while people's lives were being destroyed, while the guy with a nuclear football was eating pudding and drooling on himself, you have 200 Democrats now openly admitting, yeah, I knew that. I just didn't say anything. Why? Because the ends justify the means. We'll put this guy in. Don't worry. We'll figure out. Doesn't matter what the law is. Doesn't matter what the Constitution says. Doesn't matter that this is actually a violation of democracy. It doesn't matter. The ends justify the means. You cannot go down that road. You cannot go down that road. And Democrats, you are about to be eaten by radical revolutionaries. Look out.
This is Glenn Beck.
All right, right now, we basically have one chance to right the economic ship. And if we're being honest, the odds are, nobody's done this before. We've printed trillions of dollars. We piled up debt that no one, left, right, or center, seem to be willing to touch at all. And if you think interest rates are high now, just wait until the next crisis hits. The dollar is being devalued. It's the world is unstable, quietly moving away from the U.S., as the global standard. So, what's going to happen? Well, maybe miracles, because we've seen them before, but we have to get serious, and we have to get serious about, as individuals, where our money is. And for a lot of that, a lot of people that means moving a portion of it into something real, like physical gold or silver. Lear Capital has been helping Americans protect their savings now for over 25 years. They make it really simple to transfer a portion of your retirement into precious metals, even inside of an existing IRA. Please hedge your bet with physical gold. Call now, 800-957-GOLD, 800-957-GOLD.
If you want to get a link to every story we talk about every day, the best place is the free email newsletter. You can sign up now at glennbeck.com.
You know, for Democrats, if you don't think you're playing with communism or socialism, talk to the people in Washington State. Talk to anyone who is sane in Washington State. I'll give you his number. But they are going to full-fledged communism, Marxism. You have every giant corporation now moving out of the Seattle area in Washington State because I'm telling you, they're going to go to wealth confiscation. They're going to do it. There is a place, Lake Washington is, by Bellevue, in between Bellevue and Seattle. And it is beautiful. It is just the most beautiful place you've ever seen. And this is where Bill Gates and everybody else. And when I was a kid, it was not like that. It was, there were still normal people that lived there. And now you can't even get close to it. And there's this place in the middle of the lake, and it's called Hunts Point. And it is where, these are $60 to $100 million houses. And they're not necessarily fancy. They just happen to be in an area where there's not very much land, and it is the place to live if you like water, and you're living right on the water, and it's just spectacular. It used to be that when a place would go up for sale, even when I was a kid, on Hunts Point, it would never last. Okay, they'd never come up for sale. People they wouldn't want to sell it because you couldn't replace it. You couldn't get anything like it. And so they would come up for sale and they'd be gone before anybody would even know. I am told by a friend who knows that area quite well that I think he said 17 homes in Hunts Point are up for sale. 17. And some of them have been up for sale now for over a year, and there are no buyers. All of these people are trying to get out of Washington State, and nobody's buying their home because are you going to buy that? Hey, rich person, where are you going to move from? You're going to move to Washington? No. Washington, the property values are going to start plummeting. And you've got crazy people, not only crazy people all around you. I'm telling you, I grew up in Washington State. I grew up listening to, hippies and everything else. My friends and I remember going to a friend's house, and we were standing on our front porch, and, this is the Alex P. Keaton days, and not politically, but just, I guess a little politically, but my friends agreed with Reagan, but we didn't talk politics. It was just, we weren't hippies. And I remember standing on a front porch, and my friend was going to open up her front door. She had her hand on the doorknob, and before she opened it, she turned to me and she said, "I really apologize. My folks are probably in the living room getting stoned. Just never mind." We were the adults. And we open up the door, and I'm like, I get it. And so open up the door, and there they are getting stoned, and they're like, "Hey, kids, what's going on?" That's where I grew up, okay? And it was crazy back then. And there's these people that believe in this thing called Cascadia, which is a communist state. Just get out of America, start a new communist country called Cascadia, and it is Washington, Oregon, and I think they want parts of Idaho. Thank God Idaho hasn't gone nuts yet. But that's what's coming. That's what they want. And you see people like, the mayor of Seattle. Do you see what happened in Seattle over the weekend, Stu? Where there was this... Yeah, go ahead.
A little bit. You're talking about the mayor and this accusation going back?
No. The Christians that had a revival out in a park, and all of these revolutionaries came. They were threatening them. The police came and shut down the Christians, and they deemed the Christians, the police against their will, I think, but under the direction of the mayor, shut down the Christians, excused all the radical revolutionaries, and said, it's the Christians here that are causing all the ruckus. It's crazy what's going on. Well, now what you were talking about is the scandal that's going on with Bruce Harrell. He's the mayor of Seattle. Who is the mayor of Seattle? Who is this guy? Okay, well, he's just like you. Just like you, if you had been arrested in 96 for brandishing a firearm over a parking space, in 1996, this has been out for a while. He was a young attorney, and he had just been appointed to the Housing Authority Board in, I think, Council Bluffs, Iowa. And he was at a casino, and he was pulling up to a parking space, and this other couple in their family, it's a husband, wife, a mom, and somebody else, they pull up, and they pull into the parking space, and he gets pissed off. And they say he pointed a gun at them, and they were afraid for their lives. He admitted at the time to say, yeah, I had my gun, but I wasn't pointing it at them. What are you doing? Just showing it to them? Hey, I'm so proud of my gun. I just want you to see. That's called brandishing a firearm. Okay, you can't do that. It's against the law. Well, the charges, fall apart or whatever, and so he's charged with it, but he's not convicted of it. Nobody says anything. Well, it comes up again recently, and now he's saying, no, I didn't have a gun. They mistook my watch for a gun. Now, I'm a watch guy. I'm a watch collector. I like watches, and I have some big watches, but I've never had anyone at any airport or on the street go, oh my gosh, you've got a gun strapped to your wrist. No, it's never happened. Has that ever happened to you, Stu, where you're like, that guy's got a gun on his wrist, and you realize, no, it's just actually a watch?
Well, you're talking about the watch gun. Yeah, I try not to wear that at night because people do make that mistake.
Yeah, I mean, besides the watch gun,
right?
You know what I mean?
No,
besides that watch. Okay, so that's his excuse now. When it's brought up, he's like, "No, I didn't have one." He said at the time he did, but he wasn't pointing it at him. Now he says, "No, they mistook that for a watch." Ends justify the means. I mean, if you're going to elect radicals, if you're going to elect people that don't, they just don't care about the law, the Constitution, they don't care. But oh well.
People just say anything now. There's no even attempt to come up with stories that even sound real.
No,
because basically, and if you think about it, there's some pragmatic sense to it in our current day, which is in reality, what's going to happen is the people who already liked you are going to support you no matter what you say. And you might as well just say something, and everyone's going to nod along and say, well, yes, I like his other policies, or I want him to succeed. Right. So therefore I believe his gun watch story.
Right. Who is the guy? What was it? Jesse Smollett?
Yeah. Jesse Smollett.
Yeah. He's still saying that it was, he was targeted. Still saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
there's no consequence for any of this.
No, it's true. I mean, we talked a little bit off the air a few minutes ago about, this is the sort of conversation we have, which is the WNBA and the situation with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, where, again, these are two basketball players, one white, one black. The white player fouled the black player. There's some sort of rivalry that seems to be basically one way from Angel Reese toward Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark walks away. Angel Reese freaks out. The team, Angel Reese's team lost by 30 points in the game. Afterwards, she's doing her press conferences. And of course, as you 100% can just fill in the blank, even if you know nothing about the story, claim that there was racism. That was the reason why all of this happened. And that there was people in the stands yelling racial slurs at her. She says this to a press conference. It's a major controversy. Everybody's talking about it. They're batting it back and forth. What does this mean? Can you believe this? Full investigation launched, blah, 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 blah. Now remember, this doesn't happen in the woods. This doesn't happen under a bridge, right. In Madagascar somewhere. This happens in an arena that's being televised. So, of course, there are hundreds of fans around the area where this was supposedly going to happen. There were dozens of employees around this area. There were cameras and microphones everywhere. Of course, they do the investigation. Of course, no one can find any evidence that this happened at all. No one can find one example of this occurring. And then the end of the story is not a massive controversy about how this player could be falsely accusing all of these people that are fans of the other team of being racist and manufacturing claims of racial slurs. No. The story is a 2-paragraph statement from the WNBA. Hey, we looked into it, couldn't find anything. No follow-ups from any of the journalists who were concerned about it at the time. We just all move on.
And why no follow-up on the investigation of how that began? Who started those charges? What are they going to do? Are they going to pay a price for starting those charges?
Shouldn't they?
And didn't I see that very player sitting on the bench talking about white girls?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
in a derogatory way.
Yeah, that's hard to see many conversations without that phrase used from that particular player.
I mean, well, what about the racism there? I mean, it's just it doesn't seem to matter anymore. The truth doesn't matter anymore. You know, I somebody said to me the other day, have you seen that Donald Trump is now saying that if you're working for the government, you have to go through, I think it's 100-hour class on the Constitution? And somebody said, well, wait a minute, I don't want that. I don't want that because I don't want them doing that with DEI. No. The Constitution is the owner's manual. And right now, we have a bunch of people that are trying to put our country together, and they've never read the instructions. And, you know, it's like it's like our country came from IKEA. And, you know, I can build this. I'll just put it together. And it's being built upside down. The legs are in the wrong place. And you've got like 47 screws left over at the end. Okay? Read the instructions. Okay? They're not in Swedish. They're in English. Read the instructions. This, I think, is one of the best things that the president has done so far. You want to work in the administration? You want to work for the government? Good. You got to go take a course on the Constitution of the United States, because that's the owner's manual. And there's no excuse. Oh, I didn't know that was in the Constitution. I didn't know we couldn't do that. Even though they're not even saying that. They're now saying 200 people, Democrats, are now saying, yeah, I knew that he was gone, but you know, we couldn't lose the election. Wow, yeah, I think you need a refresher on the Constitution, because none of that is part of our country. None of that. There's no place in the Constitution that allows that.
Yeah, one of the ways it's interesting, they talk about that in the book of those decisions being made, right? Why would you hide this from the American people? Like, how could you justify that? And, you know, It is exactly what you're saying.
Ends justify the means.
Right. And they said that one of the reasons why, especially the really close group around the Bidens, including the family and some of these advisors, basically said, number one, Donald Trump is, you know, basically Hitler, right? Like he's an existential threat, and he's the worst thing that could ever happen to us. So we have to do anything to beat him. And the people really close to Biden believed the only person who could beat him was Joe Biden. Now that's another level of delusion, I suppose, to think that Joe Biden was uniquely qualified for this victory. But he was the only person who did win in an election against him, right? So there's maybe some sense to that. But as I think it was Alex Thompson, one of the authors, pointed out, it's like when you exist, when those two things are true, you can justify anything.
Yes.
Right? Like if you believe Hitler's about to come into power and the only person who can beat him is this old doddering fool you work with, well, of course you're going to justify all of this.
If you believe that Elon Musk is evil, I can firebomb and terrorize anybody with a Tesla.
Yeah.
If you believe that global warming is going to wipe the entire earth out, I can kill anyone with an SUV. This is why you can never adopt the ends justify the means, which is Saul Alinsky. That is the motto now of the Democratic Party. More in just a second. Let me tell you about Patriot Mobile. There's always been a clear mandate in this country about, when your preferences or values run up against the grain of the company you're doing business with, if you don't like it, build your own, right? Well, Patriot Mobile took that seriously. They began with a simple idea that Americans deserve a wireless company that shares their values. Well, the big carriers funnel money into radical Marxist causes and lobby for policies that divide us. Patriot Mobile quietly poured its profits into something far more lasting: American lives. A struggling pro-life clinic just given enough just to keep its doors open. A first responder grant that arrived in the nick of time. A school able to stay independent and open because somebody believed they were worth fighting for. And you can be part of that. without sacrificing a single bar of coverage. Patriot Mobile runs on the same networks as the same major providers. They offer excellent customer service, and it makes it easy for you to keep your phone number, your phone, and your freedom. So make the switch today. Go to patriotmobile.com/Beck, patriotmobile.com/Beck, or call 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code BECK for a free month of service. patriotmobile.com/Beck, 972-PATRIOT.
Freedom's like a wild horse. If you don't grab the reins every once in a while, you're liable to catch a hoof to the face. And trust me, that ain't pleasant. Beck will be right back after this.
There's a concept I like to think about. Maybe when you buy a product, it's supposed to be about how good the product is, not about politics. Coffee should be about the flavor, the experience, not about some agenda. Blackout Coffee kind of gets back to basics in this way. This family-owned American company makes exceptional coffee without the corporate activism, and people across the country are loving the difference. They source premium beans and roast them with care in American facilities. One clear goal drives everything that they do, creating coffee that actually tastes incredible. Their dark roasts have the bold flavor that you want. Medium blends provide smooth complexity. Their specialty varieties enhance what makes coffee great instead of masking it with artificial additives. They've even got the cold brew cans that you can just kind of pop out as you're leaving the house. The slogan on the back, "Be awake, not woke." You gotta love that. Blackout lets their coffee do the talking. They focus on perfecting their craft while supporting values that bring Americans together rather than push them apart. If you're running short on time, they've got the instant coffee. They've got the cold brew. That's fantastic as well. Every product they have kind of lives by this sort of edict. Like, they're going to make good coffee. They're not going to beat you up with all the politics. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Blaze. Use the promo code Blaze. Get 20% off your first order. It's blackoutcoffee.com/Blaze. Promo code Blaze.
All right, welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Elon Musk is leaving service of Washington today. I've got quite a bit to say about that. We'll probably hit that maybe next hour. Also, Mike Lee may be joining us later on the program. We also have Zachary Levi, the Wildwood Studios owner, the actor that is just, he's fantastic. I love him. Is he coming in? I think he's on phone, or is he in studio? I can't remember, but he's on the phone. He'll be joining us because, Google's VO3. I don't know if you've been paying attention to what this is doing this week, but is that the end of filmmaking as we know it? I mean, you could type something in and it looks like movie studio quality. If I'm an actor or I'm a filmmaker, and I do produce an awful lot of television, it's a little concerning. We'll talk to him about that next.
Is Glenn Beck.